1, 3, 2.
What's up, Naki?
What's up?
Big smiles from you today.
Bang, bang.
Bang, bang, Niner gang. What we got? We got football. We definitely have football to talk about today. Season 6, episode 4 of the Faika broadcast. We are going to talk about the Niners. We're going to talk about the NFL playoffs. And what else we got? We got our check-ins, and then we got an interview with Kalolaine Fainu that we did earlier this week, all the way from Papua New Guinea.
All the way.
A Pacific Islander media content creator,
Right.
Writes for The Guardian right now and is a freelance writer as well. She's a film maker, storyteller. Pacific
Film
Islander
Festival.
Yeah. She created the Pacific Islander Film Festival. So we have that interview coming up, and that's the show today. Naki, what's good?
You know, I have to put it out there, especially since we got Raider people in the building.
It's time to talk football already.
Yes, bang, bang, Niner gang. I don't know if you've seen that, Q. If you watched that game yesterday, we got Q in the building this morning.
Not going to lie, I'm a little nervous. We have Brother Q from Island City Media in the house today. He's lending us his expertise. So, we have that, and he's also a Raider fan. So I'm sure there's going to be some trash talking going on today. Naki, how was your week? And obviously, the cap off was the game last night.
Yeah, it was the game yesterday. My husband was going crazy, when they won. So, I'm a big Niner fan. Of course, everyone knows that me and Carl go at it every Sunday.
So let me ask you this. Fans of teams, like I'm the biggest Steeler fan, but I'm also the biggest Steeler critic. Like I'm the first one to go, oh my gosh, this team, like, how many times, because if I were a Niner fan yesterday watching that game, there were points where I would have been like extremely frustrated. Did Mose get there? Did you get there? Did the house get there?
I was there. I'm not a big fan of Jimmy G. And so I was there from the beginning. I was like, oh, Green Bay. But because that could have been our quarterback, I'm just saying. But I'm not a big fan of Jimmy G. So when they scored in like the first 5 minutes, Green Bay, I was like, oh, hell no.
Ty, my son and I were in my office. We're hanging a green screen that we have by. But we had the game on as we're watching it. And I remember watching the opening drive. Aaron Rodgers just takes it down there. It's like 9 yards, 14 yards, 8 yards. I mean, it was like a minimum of 7 yards of play. And both of us were like, we were laughing, going, if there's a that was easy button for the Packers. Right. And I said, unless the Niners get their arms around that, it's going to be a long night.
Yeah.
Boy, did they ever. No more touchdowns and only one field goal the entire rest of the game. The defense for the Niners was like the MVP last night.
Right. And usually they were, it must be the snow. It must have been the snow or the weather, but it was a really good game. Of course, PI social media was blowing up because the only touchdown was done by, Talanoa Hufanga. So he's everybody's nephew. That's my brother. That's my cousin. I was like, how we do.
That's how it happened a couple of years ago when Tua Tagovailoa was on the bench all the way through the first half of the Alabama the NCAA championship game, and then they brought him in the second half, and he took over and won the game.
Yeah.
Everybody was Tua's uncle.
I know, but that's what we do, right? We're so proud of whatever PI is doing good. We're like, yes. It's like
it was the most searched name, the most Googled name on the internet last night was Talanoa Hufanga.
Yes, I have to admit I did that too. And Mo was like, oh, he went to USC. Mo knows every statistic, my husband, of every 49er and PI, past, present, current, whatever. he was in the kitchen when he scored the touchdown. He wasn't even watching the game, but he peeked over and seen that it was Hufanga. And he's in the kitchen screaming, Hufanga, Hufanga. I was like, this is really, I shouldn't be seeing this right now. But it was a great game. Everybody is in our new on Facebook at Bang Bang Niner Gang. So
yeah, it was exploding on the internet, especially because my feed, I have a ton of friends and family that are 49er fans.
Mm-hmm.
So Facebook was all Niners. But because a fan knows fans,
Mm-hmm.
the frustration through the game from some of the posts were from Niner fans. And it was like, the only way you're getting away with saying that is because you're a Niner fan.
Right.
If you weren't a Niner fan, Niner Nation would be coming for you for saying that kind of stuff. But I'm usually a Niner hater. I will admit the last 3 games I have been rooting for the Niners. It's the thing of being able to win gritty. Like they didn't have anything going right last night, and they're in Lambeau.
Yeah.
So to me, the Packers are the best team in the NFC. The Niners just went in. Yeah, they were. The Niners just went into Lambeau and beat them on the road and found a way to win, not even playing their best game. I'm not a Niner fan, but legit, if people stay healthy, I don't see a reason why not. I guess that's a better question. Why not? I don't see a reason why not.
Yeah, they remind me of the San Francisco Giants, where they just torture us until the last minute. Like I don't know how long I can take this. I got to do this during football season and baseball season. I don't know, but it's a good time.
At least the Warriors aren't like that. They just blow people out. They just go ahead and dominate, win by 50, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't have that problem with the Warriors. But yeah, the Giants and the Niners now, San Francisco should be providing free health care for all the
fans. True story. I believe that, and they should. So yeah, it was a great game yesterday. Big shout out to the Niners. Yes. Shout out to everyone checking in on Facebook. Thank you for tuning in this morning. We got a lot of Bang Bang Niner Gang going on in the chat. So thank you and good morning. So that was going on.
I'm not even going to hate.
I know. You usually do.
This team is just one of those. Like I said, they're finding it's the never out of it, always, never quit. It reminds me of the Giants of 2010 and 12 where, they were down in series and down in 8th, 9th inning, those kind of things. But that play by the block was supposed to be a field goal going the other way. It was a punt. Mm-hmm. So it was the special teams that came through, but the Packers just messed up. I mean, they had 2 kicks blocked. And then when they punted, they end up kicking it straight to Deebo Samuel.
Right.
Like, that's the last guy on the field that you want to kick to.
Right.
And he returns it to the 45, and then I think Garoppolo only needed a couple first downs to get the field goal.
Yeah.
So, why kick it to Deebo? And then they only had 10 players on the field when the Niners kicked the winning field goal. Right. They didn't even have enough players on the field.
Yeah.
So it was just a meltdown by Green Bay. But the Niners finding a way to win.
Yeah, I think it was all that shit talking he was doing in the beginning of the game, because they kept interviewing him. He was like, "Oh yeah, I wanted to be his whole family. He used to be a Niner fan, and now, we did mess up. We passed on him when we should have." But yeah, so
that's the thing is you always hear it when there's a hometown guy that the team didn't draft.
Right.
Like the Steelers, Dan Marino and Joe Montana are from the Pittsburgh. So the Steelers, Steelers fans are always bemoaning, like, why the hell didn't?
Right.
So same with the Niners. You got Aaron Rodgers, who's from Chico.
Right. We totally passed on him. Who did we pick? We picked was it Alex Smith?
Somebody you don't like.
Yeah, I don't like Alex Smith. Yeah, no.
So, you haven't liked anybody since Steve Young.
Yeah, I don't like anybody. So even Kaepernick was getting on my nerves for a long time. He was like 5 yards. That's all. But anyway, I was going to say everybody's like Bang Bang Niner Gang. And usually when I say Bang Bang Niner Gang, Carl goes, "What is that gang affiliated thing that you keep shouting
out?" A bunch of gang members.
Right.
Yeah. No, I'm going along for the ride this year. I usually have more fun picking at Niner fans. I'm a fan.
Yeah. So that was the amazing weekday that I had yesterday. And so I love the game. And then so this week I was scrolling through my newsfeed, and One Love Festival in New Zealand, they're on lockdown now. The Prime Minister locked them down. That festival should have been going on next week. And Tanel she goes live and is doing videos because she's in quarantine for I think like 19 days, and she's on day 16 or something like that. And Fiji, I think he's out there in court, like all these poor artists that flew out there that are in quarantine, and now the festival has been canceled. I'm hoping maybe just postponed a day or two, but I doubt it. But the Prime Minister locked New Zealand back down. So
it seems like it would be a possibility because they're all going to unquarantine around the same time.
Right.
So they're all in country. They're all off of quarantine at a certain point within kind of the same time frame as each other. So maybe they do end up just postponing it instead of canceling it.
Or I'm hoping they can do something with the artists because they're all in quarantine, like just put them in a space and have them go. I don't know. But I was looking forward to like watching that and hearing the news about it. So yeah, I'm praying for New Zealand because they're on lockdown. And of course, numbers are going up for COVID-19 and a lot of people are testing positive because we don't stay home. But there you go.
We're too busy.
We're too busy. So and then this week, of course, a whole bunch of people are having fundraisers for the island of Tonga because, of course, they're in need of water and food and just medical supplies, anything and everything, cleaning supplies that people can get. And so SF Enterprise, Langi Shipping, who is here in, LA, and they have an office in Oakland. They've been collecting items, and like, I am so proud of our community because they announced it like within the week, and so many people just flooded over to SF Enterprise to donate cases and cases and cases, truckloads of water, pallets of medical supplies, pallets of cleaning supplies, because their water supply has been messed up because of all the volcano ashes that have been hitting their water. So I was happy to see that. We went to San Francisco Enterprise, where the Langi family, who has owned that company for 37 years. They've been shipping containers back and forth to the Pacific. I got to speak to Cecilia Langi.
I think it really struck me, and as you're going through this and you're going to talk about the people that they had talked about that are showing up, it really speaks a lot to that company,
right?
Because people know where to go now. So if there is a disaster in Samoa, if there's a disaster in Tonga, they know on the West Coast in the Bay Area, like, and what she talks about people showing up, they've established themselves as being that company now that when, we know there's resources that need to be sent out to the Pacific, people in the Bay Area just go to SF Enterprise. It just speaks to the longevity of what they're doing, and also speaks to how involved they are with the community, and they're going to help.
So they're shipping supplies for free, which is amazing. And so all they ask is that people bring donations to their location, which is in Oakland, California, 2525 Mandela Parkway. I've said that a million times this week because people have been hitting us up asking us, where can we go? And so San Francisco Enterprise on Mandela in Oakland, their first shipment went out January 20th, which was this past week. But they have another couple of containers that are going out to Tonga and their cutoff for that is February 2nd at 4 p.m. People, February 2nd, not 3rd, not 4th, February 2nd at 4 p.m. So the cutoff for the shipment that went on the 20th, it was like the cutoff was the 18th and people showed up on the 19th. And of course they took it because that's who they are. But anything and everything, they will take perishable items. Really water is what they're looking for because the whole island is shut down.
And they're doing this out of the goodness of their heart.
Right.
So make things easy for them. They're not like a shopping service. You can't send them $100 and say, hey,
no money.
Go shop, go spend this $100 on whatever. Like we, as a community, if we're going to help, we need to get the product to the shipping, to them to ship it. So make sure that you're adhering to the time frame. February 2nd is the cutoff. That we're getting the items there and we're not because if they're sealing containers and
Yes.
they're, they've got customs
Still
and
gotta go
all
through
that kind of stuff
customs,
that they got to
right.
do, let's make it as easy as possible for them to play the role that they've said that they'll play, and that's they're
Yes.
going to ship the items. So get the stuff there by February 2nd, 4 p.m.
Right.
SF Enterprise, and help them help. Let's not make it harder for SF Enterprise to do what they do.
And they're not taking any money, no monetary gifts at all at this time, not at all. So that's all they're doing is just taking items. They're not taking any money. Money is messy. So no money. Money is messy, and we're gonna talk shit. So no money. There you go.
Yeah, take your money, buy the water, drive it down there.
Yeah. So we got to talk to Cecilia Langi Pahulu, who is the office manager, the go-to. She answers everything, and pretty much everybody says she's the boss, and they're all scared of her. But she's really nice. She's a really nice lady, and she's going to take everything and anything. And they're so grateful that our community just jumped in. They have an office in Long Beach, and Oakland and Seattle. They're everywhere. So just go to their website, look for the address. A city near you, and then give them a call and see when your cutoff date is. But yeah, again, no monetary gifts.
Yeah, you had told me the story of the people across the bay that a Polynesian family had helped them earlier in their life.
Oh yeah. And these two ladies showed up. They were from San Francisco, and they said that a Tongan family that they lived in Hunters Point, and their neighbors next to them seen that her and her daughter, sometimes didn't have Christmas gifts at one Christmas. So they brought her and her daughter Christmas gifts. They also brought over food. Okay. They brought over food to her and her daughter. And she said she never forgot that. So when she seen on her news feed that they were taking supplies for Tonga, she said, these people that didn't even knew me fed my daughter, gave us Christmas gifts, and for no reason, just because they knew we needed it. And so she got in her car from San Francisco and drove to Oakland with like 6 cases of water. And she said, this is all that I can give. This is all that I have. But I was like, oh my God, that is so amazing. She said, paying it forward. So I think that's what we're all doing, is paying it forward. And it was beautiful to meet her. She was crying. I was crying. I was like, me, I'm always crying. But she was crying, telling the story that these people helped her, didn't know who she was. She still knows them to this day. And so she felt it in her heart to load up her car and go get some water and took it to San Francisco Enterprise. And so, it was beautiful to see this happening this time with all the craziness that's going on. And they weren't PI. So
right.
Not that made a difference, but it's just
but
beautiful.
It's more touching.
Yeah,
what I mean? That's how community works anyway, right?
Right.
They live their neighbors. They love their neighbors. They see the kids don't have toys or Christmas.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how community works. That's a great story. I didn't know that you actually met them. I thought that Cecilia was just telling you about that.
No. They were unloading their truck, and so me and Mena went over there because I'm nosy. Me and Mena went over there to talk to them, and they were unloading their water. So it was beautiful. So yeah.
Nice.
How was your week?
My week was excellent. January 19th was my father's heavenly birthday.
Yay.
He would have been 98.
Dang.
He passed away in 2019. So we always joke that my dad he wanted to live forever. So he passed away a month shy of his 96th birthday, and it was up to him. He would have lived another 100 years. He just never wanted, always was trying to figure out a way to live forever. So I was trying to figure out how do I kind of honor that? So we had his body cremated, and I took some of his ashes and I put them in a time capsule that's meant to be sealed and buried. And so it's sealed, watertight, airtight, whatever. And it's really small, so I can take it places with me. So I took it to Fort Bragg, went out to our favorite beach, just set him in the sand and sat in my chair and hung out, talked to him. He talked to me, said happy birthday. Awesome. There was a dog. There's a lady with one of those, those arms with a little ball that helps you throw the ball further. Throw the tennis ball further. And she's throwing the tennis ball for her dog, and I'm actually marveling at how far she can throw the tennis ball. And the dog is just, dogs go forever. They just go get it. So the dog gets it because it was close to me, and then the dog came over basically to say hi, right? So I'm like, oh hey, and then I pet him, and then as he's walking by, he sees the time capsule, which is my dad.
Oh, no.
He stopped and I got up out of the chair to go get him. Like, let's just not have anything bad happen.
Oh, hydrant, fire hydrant.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. So I thought I'd just avoid a bad situation happening. Got to see my mom, hung out for a couple days in Fort Bragg.
Awesome.
And was a really good, relaxing, easy time. So a couple days up north, hang out with mom, hung out with pops on our favorite beach. Went by his old house. I looked at the property, talked to
everything's still intact.
Yeah, everything's
wow,
still well.
that's awesome.
What the people haven't. So that was a really sad situation. There are special people that live next to our property, and they were permanently borrowing things from the property.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So they've stopped doing that. I think there's
nice.
new neighbors, actually. I think is what it is. The people
good.
that were there are gone. So I went and talked to the neighbors. But yeah, it was just a good couple days to pass some time up there and hang out, put my feet in the ocean, talk to mom, and that's my big part of the week. And then yesterday I got to watch it was a great day to be a sports fan. I saw the UFC was on last night. The heavyweight championship fight was on, and then the first game to me until the end was boring. Like the Bengals Titans game ended exciting, but it was boring in the first part. And I was like, I can't wait for the Niner game to start so we can see a more exciting game, one I'm more invested in.
Yeah.
So yeah, hung out in the office, fixed a few things there. Hung out with one of my 23-year-old sons, Ty. He helped me put up a screen. I'm not sure if we did it right, but it's up. If it comes crashing down on my head at some point, hey, that's part of being a DIY, do it yourself. And was really looking forward to today because we have, like I said, we got Q in the building. He's going to share some of his knowledge with us after the show. And yeah, I'm excited to show the interview that we had with Kalo earlier.
Yeah, we have Kalolaine Fainu, who is in Papua New Guinea. And so the time difference was crazy for me because the interview started at 9 p.m. our time. I'm usually asleep at like 7:45.
Like 3 p.m. the next day.
It was Wednesday, 3 p.m. Where she was at. And so I was like, I drank coffee late, and so then I was up all night. But it was a good interview. I was glad we got to get a hold of her and talk to her. So that's coming up, and then after the break, which we'll be going to in a minute or right, Mena? I'm always looking. I gotta get my shit together. I gotta get together. So yeah, Mena's gonna play our interview after our break, but it was a good week yesterday. Yesterday was the best day. You watched UFC and then sent me
I sent you a way to view the fights.
Yes. There you go.
What's funny is a way to view, an option to view.
Yes.
It's funny how we have meetings and we talk about the show, right? We talk about the production of the show. We talk about what we want to have, what we don't want to have. And one of the things Mena said is we need to stop the fourth person references. So we don't talk that like we're talking to Mena. Mena wants to be invisible, but that's just not the way that it goes down here. We got family here. We're going to talk about anybody who's in the studio is going to get talked about.
You. Yeah, I know it's bad, but edit. But Mena won't. She's like, Ma. Not that Mena's my daughter or anything. But anyway, so we're going to go to break, right, Mena? Sure. We'll stay tuned. We have the interview we did with Kalolaine Fainu coming up. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Faika broadcast.
Join us tomorrow at 5 p.m. for the award-winning show Koviki Talk, where we talk about all things COVID-19, but from the Pacific Islander perspective. We deliver timely, important, and most importantly, accurate health-related information relevant to the PI community. It's Pacific Islander health and community representatives speaking directly to the PI community. Essence of Mana is offering free classes via Zoom. They're reaching out to our PI community, and it doesn't matter where you live. You just need to be able to commit to the course, which is 12 weeks. For more information or to register, you can hit up Lulu Masina at 415-243-6328 or El Masina at healthright360.org. They also have Talanoa Tuesday every week at 7 p.m., hosted by Nani Wilson and Lulu Masina. Check out all their episodes on the Essence of Mana Facebook page.
The first annual Pacific Feeds Festival is happening Saturday, July 9th at the Santa Clara County Fairgrounds, featuring various PI artists such as Fiji, Sammy J, Maoli, Tanel, and the Bay Area's very own K-Mub Cobb. And more artists are being added every week. Please go to PacificFeedsFestival.com to get your tickets.
Come check us out.
We'll be there. Protect your kids the best way possible with COVID vaccines, which are tailored for children 5 to 11. Talk to a health worker if you have questions. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. We can do this. The Abundant Birth Project, a pregnancy income supplement pilot program for Black and Pacific Islander pregnant people in San Francisco. This program is providing a monthly stipend at $1,000 during pregnancy and during the postpartum period to Black and Pacific Islander pregnant peoples in San Francisco. The purpose of ABP is so that you can worry less about money and focus on having a healthy and safe pregnancy. expectingjustice.org/abundantbirth-project. Go there, get your money,
How much is it?
$1,000.
A month?
A month.
Every month?
Every month.
Man, get your money. The Amu Blood Drive is happening March 19th, 2022 from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 2055 Sunnydale Avenue, San Francisco, California. For more details, visit linktr.ee/allmyusos or contact Christine Mauia at 650-219-1081.
The 7th annual Amu Barbecue is happening August 20th at Gilman Park in San Francisco. It's a free family affair for the entire family.
How much is it?
Free.
Free.
Free 99. Parking is free. The food is free. You just got to show up.
Come check us out. We'll be there.
Naki with PBD. We're here at San Francisco Enterprise in Oakland, California. We're here with the /boss woman /do everything, Cecilia Langi Pahulu. Tell us about what's going on here today and ongoing until the end of the month.
Thank you for having us. We're actually still collecting donations. The ship leaves tomorrow. So as you know, Island time, we're still loading. The ship will be here tomorrow. We'll get the stuff onto that vessel. A lot of churches, the city of San Bruno, different friends and family have been showing up, dropping off pallets of water, medical supply, dry foods, just to, get it on this vessel. Why wait? We have another vessel in 2 weeks, so I'm sure the outpour will continue in the next week or so. The steamship line, we've actually approached them to help out. Shipping is so expensive right now. Obviously, whatever help they can do, we'll take it. But if not, as a family, we've been doing this for 37 years. So if they can't cover the whole cost, we'll definitely cover the balance. Just at least all the donations that are coming in, we want to make sure it gets to who it needs to get to, and why wait? You know how us island people, we're not going to wait for who to tell us what to do. Let's get it on the ship and we'll get it to them.
There's another container or two going out. What date?
The cutoff is February 2nd by 4 p.m. and that ship leaves the 5th of February. So make sure you get it here by the 2nd by 4 p.m.
And they're at 2525 Mandela Parkway in Oakland. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. We appreciate it and God bless you.
Thank you.
We have Junior here who is with San Francisco Enterprise. Have you guys been nonstop these last couple of days? And when does the shipment go out? What's the last time they can donate?
Well, the last day was yesterday. The shipment is leaving tomorrow, so we're turning in the last couple containers today. Yesterday was crazy. We know that was a short amount of time that we gave people to drop off. But the next shipment is leaving on the 5th, and the cutoff is February 2nd. And that Saturday prior to that, we will be open here from 8 to 12, I believe.
Awesome.
But if they have any questions, they can always call the office. Okay. It's 510-251-2773. So we've taken any donations you could bring. What they told us that they mainly need is water, medical supplies, masks, and food. So the water's pretty bad there. So water is probably the most important thing you could bring. But anything helps.
we're back. You're listening to the Faika broadcast. I am Naki. With me, as always, is Carl.
Good morning. Good morning.
That was our interview we did with Cecilia Langi Pahulu with San Francisco Enterprise. So, get your donations to Oakland by February 2nd, or check the city by you. Go to their website and see where the city is near you so that you can donate. Our interview with Kalolaine Fainu is coming up. Kalo is a content creator, a Pacifica storyteller of Tongan Australian heritage, and is the founding director of Pacifica Film Fest. After many years of developing a platform for the Pacific creative to have their films shared with audiences on the big screen across the region, Kalo has stepped back into the production side of storytelling. She's has done stories in Sydney. She's now has been in Papua New Guinea, and so this is her interview.
I don't think she realized what she said when we said when that festival comes back up that we're going to go. And she said, no, come by, come check us out. And
you
we're
ain't
like,
said nothing but a word.
We're gonna be knocking on your door.
Okay? You ain't said nothing
Don't
but a
say
word.
that because we're going to do that. So
we will be there. So this is our interview that we did. She was in Papua New Guinea. And so here you go. And maybe not. I missed that. Missed the cue.
I was impressed with the ability that she has to just we asked, what do you do in your spare time? She's like, oh, I'll make a short film, or I'll do a biography about this, or, there was all these different things that she was doing that she does in her spare time. Yeah. And they're all things that you and I right now are trying to learn how to do, like how to edit video and put these kind of things together. Those are all things that we're trying to do. And those are things like she does to relax herself. Yeah. Like, it's stressful for me if I got to get on YouTube and look up how to do stuff. Like, I'm like, this is taking up a lot of time and energy. And that's just like a past, like, she just likes to do that.
Yeah, she does have a short film real quick. You go to YouTube. It's Meeting the Parents, Tongan parents. So go check her out. And here you go. All right. And we're back. You're listening to the Faika broadcast. I'm Naki. With me is
for our show that's going to air on Sunday. And
some new ideas.
A story that we would like to have you tell, not us tell.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you. It sounds good. The show sounds great.
We have a little technical difficulties. We'll be right back with that interview, but that's Kalolaine Fainu. Let me go back into her.
And she's a great storyteller, whether it's a digital story that she's telling, or so in the interview, we talk about shark calling, and I had never even heard of it, right? Shark calling, to me, when I read it, it was just like, what the heck is shark calling?
It's a thing.
It's a thing
done by the men in PNG.
The men are
not
singing.
The women. I'm just saying.
So she did, and it may disappear. You know what I mean? Because of some of the things, the man-made effects that we have on the environment. That kind of stuff may go away, but her ability to just pick a story and then tell it from both the cultural standpoint and from more the media standpoint. So she's kind of got her foot in both worlds. I was really impressed with just the wide, there's not like a narrow niche that she's doing. Like, she writes for The Guardian, and they say, hey, there's a story over here that we want you to do. And she may know nothing about it. Right. But off she goes, packs her bags, heads over there, immerses herself in the kind of the experience, and then she writes articles like the sinking island of Torua
that we spoke of last week because of what is that, why is it sinking? Global warming,
rising sea levels, and just the she found the cultural touch of the interview with the man whose father
is buried on that island,
and they're not going to take his remains. They're not going to move them, and he's going to basically go. What do you say? Like, my father's going to go down like the captain of the Titanic. Like, he's not leaving. He's going to be there forever.
Right.
But to find that angle, right? So when you go to write about a sinking island, I don't think that necessarily you're thinking, hey, I'm going to go find somebody who has somebody buried. That, you know what I mean? Like, she got involved with that and figured out like that is the cultural angle.
Yeah. And I think that we were drawn to it because in the islands, we bury our loved ones in front of the house, like literally on our property. So for the island to be sinking, and how you can't pick them up and move them, across to the States or anything like that, that whole island is sinking. And so we really feel for those people that, what am I going to do? Like, he's like, my dad is going down, like the Titanic. So I think that's why we were drawn to that story. Plus she was a PI creative. So
yeah, when we were in the independent country of Samoa and American Samoa, that was one of the things that really struck me. As you drove past down roads, the houses on both sides, you saw markers on both sides, in front of the house, on property that is no longer, I think your grandmother, right? That didn't use the road. You didn't used to be that close to
the road.
Yeah, the road. And so now you have these burial sites that roads and things are going around. It's definitely part of the culture that I'd heard about, you know what I mean? Until you drive through and see that, each house that we visited, there was a burial marker in front of it.
Yeah. So we're ready to go. So here's the interview. All right, ready. All right, and we're back. You're listening to the Faika broadcast. I'm Naki. With me, as always, is Carl.
Hello.
And we have a special guest, like really special, because she is coming in from Papua New Guinea, and she's taken time to talk to us. Really, I'm like, we were talking about your article last Sunday, but before we get into that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're coming in from and everything wonderful? Just a little bit, but we're going to ask you 50 million questions.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on your show. And my name is Kalolaine Fainu. My background is, my father is Tongan. My mum was born in Papua New Guinea, but has ancestry that sort of hails from different parts of Europe, mostly Germany, Denmark, England. And we also have a very famous ancestor from Samoa, known in these parts as Queen Emma. I've grown up all my life in Australia mostly, but for the last 2 years, I have been living in Papua New Guinea. And it's been an interesting time to be here. I've been here all throughout the COVID period, which has also, for me personally, has presented me with lots of opportunities to get back into my creative work and writing and capturing stories. So it's been an interesting journey to come back to the place where my mum was born and grew up, and spend a little bit of time here getting to know the country, the people, and the stories here.
That's awesome. Is Papua New Guinea, is it locked down because of COVID, or can people leave? Like in Samoa, it's on lockdown. You can't leave. You can't.
Yeah, no, Papua New Guinea has been, we had one small or short-ish kind of lockdown when most of the world went into lockdown. And then we've had some sort of, interprovincial lockdowns with limited traveling. But I guess the feeling here is they've wanted to keep businesses running and people moving. So although we have all the precautions in place, we can still move about domestically fairly easily, as long as we're filling out the right forms and taking the right precautions. And business travelers have been able to continue their travel. It's just, it's obviously just a much more lengthy process to come in and out of the country. And obviously you have to have your vaccinations and things like that. I think it's a little bit harder as a Papua New Guinean citizen to leave here and go to another country. Still considered a bit of a red zone. The vaccination rates are really low in this country. They're probably down at around 3% or something like that. So, but I did just see today there an update from Australia saying, vaccinated people, as long as you're vaccinated, you can come in. But no lockdowns, just, a little bit tighter controls on movements and things like that, like a lot of other people are experiencing.
Awesome.
So being in Papua New Guinea, was that something that you found yourself there because of your career or your journey, or is it somewhere that you wanted to get back to at some point in your life anyway, or maybe both? But how did you end up back there where you are now?
Yeah, it's a cool story. It's a combination of a lot of things. I think, I mean, my whole life I grew up listening to stories from my grandparents, aunties, uncles, mum about Papua New Guinea, and I'd only ever spent really short visits here as a child. So I had limited personal experience, but a wealth of kind of, you know, ancestral stories, and so I've had a real familiarity and sort of longing to sort of get to know this place. My opportunity to come back here and spend some real time on the ground came after the passing of my grandmother. Both my grandparents had passed at that stage, but they had made an agreement with with their children, my mum and her siblings, that when they both eventually passed, that they wanted their ashes to be brought back to Papua New Guinea together and to be buried on our family cemetery, which we have here. So, you know, along with my grandfather's, side of the family, and the grandmother who raised him in a place called Kuruduri. So we all knew that when that moment came, that we would be coming and bringing their ashes back to Papua New Guinea, to East New Britain, and we had planned a big family sort of reunion and ceremony, and as part of that, there was a lot to organise. My mum is one of 10 siblings, so there's a lot to organise in terms of bringing everybody over from Australia, America, the UK, but as well as coordinating all the logistics and working with the local community, because where the cemetery is, it's on land that is owned and occupied by traditional landowners and a local community. So we had to do lots of someone had to sort of be on the ground to work between, you know, work out all the logistics between getting the family over and working with the local community. So I really wanted to do that, and I put my hand up and I said, look, I'm going to take some time off my life in Australia, and I'd really like to be on the ground and be part of that experience. And because I'm also a documenter and storyteller, I went ahead and sourced some funding to document the journey and the ceremony that took place, and so that I could make a documentary film about that whole homecoming of my grandparents to the place that they love so much in PNG. So that's initially how I got here, and I just really fell in love with being here and learning more about my mum's side, and you know, all the stories were sort of falling into place, and I just kept revisiting over and over again, until I came here during that period of the crucial lockdown, the big lockdown that did happen. And so at that point I was actually stuck, because there was like a 24-hour grace period to get out of the country, and I was on a remote island. And then the only way to get out internationally was to get to another mainland and then go again. So instead of like rushing or, you know, I don't think I really would have made it anyway, but I just sort of made up my mind that I was happy to sort of spend that lockdown here and sit it out and experience it in PNG. And that kind of just turned into me, you know, staying here. And, you know, through that, I started, you know, utilizing my storytelling skills and picked up opportunities to write and share stories with the international audience. And yeah, that's kind of the beginning of that journey, really.
Have you been there? Have you been there before this? Have you been there before this trip?
Only for short visits,
Yeah.
only for like a holiday or a wedding or something like that. So it was the first big opportunity to spend some real time engaging with people in a really much more meaningful way and getting to know the country, better.
And is there a big culture change, or did you just get right in there, or is there a big major culture change there?
Oh, I think if, you know, I'm someone who's traveled well and, you know, to different parts of the Pacific. And I think if you have that as a background, there isn't a huge culture shock. I think, you know, we're all brothers and sisters across the Pacific region, and you'll find so many similarities across, you know, our cultures, and so many unique differences as well, which makes it familiar yet still so exciting to go in and explore, because you feel comfortable, you understand some things, but then there's so many different cool things to learn about as well. So I did have that familiarity, and I felt very comfortable here from the beginning.
Go ahead.
I was reading a book called Sea Peoples by Christina Coleman, and she talks about traveling across Polynesia with her husband, who's Maori. And she talks about how it didn't really matter where they landed in the Pacific. People were calling him brother, like they were welcoming him. And it didn't matter whether he was in Samoa, Hawaii, any of the places they went. She just talked about how he was accepted because he was seen as another Pacific Islander and welcomed. And that's really one of the things of how we, quote, found you was we had a piece on our show last week where we talked about Torur, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but the island and the piece that you had written about the sinking island, and just the thought of leaving. We're just a short period into our conversation. You've already talked about burial grounds, right, where your family's buried, and the piece in there where the person's talking about, like, I'm going to leave my father who's buried on this island forever. Just really hit home with us. And then as we're looking at that, then we see your name, and then we look you up, and Naki's really good at stalking people on the internet, on the social media. And we said in about, I don't know, a couple hours, we got to get a hold of her and have her on the show. So looking through that, we definitely want to talk about Torur, but the Pacific, the festival,
Pacifica Film Fest.
Yes, you're the founder of that, and we haven't had it in a couple of years, I think, because we couldn't find any. We stalked you pretty good. We couldn't find anything for 2021 or 2020. But talk a little bit about how what your vision was in founding that, and then where do you just make the decision where it goes from an idea to, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah, so the Pacifica Film Fest was a concept that was originally born while I was still at university, and I was doing a media arts degree in Sydney. And myself and my colleague, who has been with me since the very beginning of the inception of Pacifica Film Fest, Eliora Malifa, we were pretty much the only two Pacific Islanders in our course, and we immediately obviously spotted each other and worked on a number of our uni projects, short films and things like that. And I personally found that whatever I'm studying or working on, I've always had an interest of making a connection back to me or my cultural community. So I was always researching or trying to research films from the Pacific, and looking for things in our library, and that didn't really exist at the time. And and I was like, everything sort of led us back to sort of places like New Zealand, and so Ellie and I often talk about, how cool it'd be if one day there was a festival for Pacific films, just Pacific films. Imagine that, and uni, and you have this idea, and then we both graduated. And then there was an opportunity in my local community council that said, we're having an arts festival. There are some small grants available. Pitch an idea and you may get the money. And I thought about this idea I had at uni, like, what about we try this, Pacific Film Festival? And that's really where it all began. I was living in a big old creative warehouse. And so I thought, I can host this. I had a pull down projector screen. We put fullers and beanbags on the floor. We invited Pacific artists to put paintings and other artworks up on the wall. And we asked anybody who had a Pacific film to please contribute something so that we could, have a little Pacific Film Festival. And that was the very beginning of Pacifica Film Fest. It was something that came from a personal desire to want to see more films about people and places that I could identify with, that could teach me more about where I come from. I've always lived outside of Pacific Islands, and so I always have this sort of longing to learn more about where I come from, where my father comes from, and my mother comes from. so I guess it's like filling the gaps, and so you use that to drive what it is that you want to achieve or see happen, and then you share it with everybody else, and that's Pacifica Film Festival in a nutshell in the beginning, and then onwards from there, we collaborated with some really good partners. Nigel Vangana, who was a former NRL football player who was still working with the NRL at the time, and our good friend Paul Tuivai, who has sadly passed on.
Yeah.
They came together, and the four of us created with Ellie a very strong foundation to relaunch and rebrand the film festival and bring it to light. And it was an incredible. There was an incredible response to it. Everybody came out to watch the films. Everybody came out to support with, food and dance and be involved. And we could see that there was the longing that I had and the longing that Ellie had, and was something that so many other people had, is everybody wanted to see these stories. They wanted a space where they could enjoy the stories. They wanted to be able to relate to stories that they could identify with, and they wanted to learn more about where they came from. And that was basically the key and the foundations of the festival. And we've grown the festival in many different ways since then. We've travelled to Aotearoa. We've been in the Solomon Islands. We've done workshops. We've had many screenings here in PNG. And in 2020, we did have a virtual festival because it was COVID and there was no screenings really happening anywhere. The virtual festival didn't work in the same way that the community festivals happen. I think a big part of the success of the festival is the coming together of all of our people in one place, because we share food, we share music, and we share dance
and stories, and
we share the story together. And so when you take away that kind of live, face-to-face engagement, you kind of lose a little bit of the essence of that whole spirit of the festival. So it has been on hold since 2020. We haven't sort of made any forward plans as yet as to the direction of the festival at this stage, but it is definitely something that we'll keep alive as we see what happens around the world.
Yeah. I love that. I love that festival only because here in the States we don't have that. And we always think that New Zealand and Australia are so way ahead of us, because our community, we don't have a TV station, and like Fresh TV comes on, it's popular in New Zealand. We have to go to YouTube, we have to search for it, because we don't have easy access to it. So when we do see it, or we catch a glimpse of it, on my news feed or something, like we automatically are drawn to it because we don't have it here in the States. So I think that's so amazing, and we want to get to that festival. It's just that the pandemic is holding us hostage. But I always think, have you been to the States, first of all? And to me, you guys are way ahead of us, as in film, in writing, and there's not too many of us in, other than The Rock, you know what I mean? But in writing, journalists and directors, and I feel like there's way more. Probably are.
Yeah, the feeling is that culturally, there are creators, and there's radio stations and TV stations and networks and things that are it's in Polynesia, it's in the Pacific, and we have pieces of that. But then when we see some of the things that are being produced by Pacifica creators, and like yourself and Lisa Taoma, and when we see those, we're like, wow, like we should have these things. But then it's easy to forget how close to you're in the Pacific, so those are the creators are going to have to find an outlet. But those are the things, like Naki and I are, as soon as the COVID travel ban gets lifted, your festival, New Zealand, Fresh Studios, like those are things we want to get to, because we don't have those here. But do you see that being in that creative hotbed for Pacific Islanders? Do you see that while you're in it, or is it if you're in there, just banging away, making content, amazing content that we do want to talk about? Do you know that? Do you see that how you're viewed? I guess by the U.S. and Naki's talking about the states. Do you have that perception, or do you see the difference?
I can understand where you guys. I used to sit that way and look at New Zealand and think, wow, New Zealand's got everything. I mean, they have on top of everything, they have really great funding for their Pacific arts.
Yeah.
And so there's really like targeted support for Pacific cultural events and arts events and things like that. So I used to be like, oh, I'm so jealous, NZ's supporting this and that. And I think in Australia, especially over it's definitely since the inception of the festival, so probably around the last 10 years, there's definitely been a big wave and a big rise in more and more sort of storytellers, creatives, and people from the community being more visible as well, like being actors getting roles on TV and in international movies and things like that. So I think there is a bit of a rise, and there's also, I think what's really good is, maybe what helps is that when the communities are sort of closer together, that definitely helps. I think maybe perhaps if you're all spread out across a bigger landmass, it is harder to mobilize everyone. So one of the, even in Australia, I find, Sydney is really good. It's really strong in terms of mobilizing all the communities, but maybe some of the other states are a little bit more difficult. That may be the case. But, in terms of, we have, one of our big visions was for the Pacific Film Festival was to always extend our reach. We've worked with small community Pacific arts groups based in Utah before that have hosted some screenings in collaboration with Pacific Film Fest, and we have also talked about growing, that concept in a much bigger format in the US as well. But how to do it in a way that's effective and reaches people, and where do you start and how do you grow it? So and the other big vision is also taking the film festival back to all the islands, because instead of just taking stories for ourselves, we should also take the stories back and share them with the place that inspires us the most, and share with all of our small Pacific communities the great opportunity to watch film. And I always sort of visualize this, screens under the stars and palm trees in the background. Like you can't get a better setup for watching films, right?
Yeah. And who inspired you to start writing, to start, film? What sparked your interest?
Well, I don't think I can pinpoint really one thing or one person. My mum's a creative. She had a dark room in the back of our shed. So when I was a small child, we would make, photographic darkroom prints in there. And so I was always surrounded by creativity. Then there's the other side, which is part of trying to understand who I am. So which really drove where my creativity sort of interests were. And then, in university, I did my undergrad was in photography, and then I did a journalism degree attached to that. So I did photojournalism. And then I worked in newspaper for a while in central Queensland, because I was really into news and factual stuff. And then after that, I came back to Sydney and did my a Master of Media Arts and Production, and I got more into sort of narrative storytelling. And then that just showed me that there's another way to tell your stories, because I thought that the factual way was the only way, and then I learned that no, there's great other ways to sort of, learn stories, tell stories, share stories. And so that's when I got more into film. And so I just kind of have this kind of I do a bit of everything. People always kind of say, what do you do? Well, I do a bit of everything. Sometimes I write stories for The Guardian. Sometimes I produce content for NGOs and aid organizations. And sometimes I make music videos. And Sometimes I do bios on myself and documentaries on myself, or make like short films about Tongan girls growing up in the Sydney suburbs and
meet the parents.
Yeah. So I don't pinpoint one particular sort of area that I'm a bit of a floater in the creative world. I just enjoy storytelling in all its different formats. I enjoy collaboration, and I really enjoy, I guess the biggest joy that you get out of something like the film festival is bringing people together, creating an event that's that gets people together, that people, some of the feedback that I get from the experiences people have from watching a film or coming to a festival event, they're the things that keep you driving to do the things that you do, because the response is that, I needed to see that story, or it's important for me to bring my children here because they've never been back to the islands, or, those small things, those moments are the things that are really key and make me feel really good about sort of doing that kind of work as well.
Yeah, I think we're so hungry to see ourselves. I think it sparks like we just, like when we seen your article and Carl read the article and then we seen your name, on, and we're like, oh, that's a Pacific Islander. Oh my God. Then we're like digging through, we're stalking you on the internet. Look what she wrote. Look at the movie that she did. It's just like, we're so hungry to see people that look like us, creating amazing work, but just also for us to see someone outside the box that people say that we're in. So I think it's amazing. I love the work that you're doing. So thank you for sharing your art, your work, because you're inspiring so many people. And we always talk about, you never know the person that is watching you, or that someone picks up, the magazine or sees your movie on YouTube and sees your name. Just seeing your name, really, and it's just like, I can do this. I can do this. I think that's exactly why we do it, is because of Pacific Islanders like yourself sharing your work and showing our kids that you can do whatever you want. You just got to follow your heart.
I think it's a new time right now because Pacific Islanders can tell our own story. We don't need somebody else to tell the story for us. And then with the visuals, it can actually be Pacific Islanders portraying Pacific Islanders. And I think that before this time, I think that we read about, I think most people's first time they read about Samoa was probably Margaret Mead.
Right.
And that there were stories being told about Pacific Islanders from more of a European perspective. And now we can tell our own story. We have creators, like yourself, that can tell the stories and portray us the way that, us bringing ourselves across. A couple things we definitely wanted to ask about, and this is just a personal thing, shark calling. One, how did you find the topic? Two, what is it, for those that don't know? And if you don't know, after she gets done talking, you can go look it up because there's an amazing article about it. And why might we lose it at this point? Because this was the first time I was reading about it, and then I was reading that we might lose it. So there's a sense of like, wow, it's crazy that I'm just hearing about this, but then also it's in danger of not being around. So maybe just a quick overview, and then all the viewers can go find the article. We'll post it on our social media. It's a great article, but it blew me away.
Yeah, sure. I've spent a little bit of time in New Ireland, which is another small island off the mainland of Papua New Guinea. So I was familiar with I'd heard about shark calling, let's say. I'd heard about shark calling before, but I hadn't learned anything about it really until I got a call from The Guardian that said, we're doing a story that we'd like you to, there's a story that we'd like you to cover. Can you go over to New Ireland, and there's a shark calling festival on, and find out more information for us. So, yeah, shark calling is an ancient tradition, especially for the people on the west coast of New Ireland. And it is in danger. The article that I went to do and cover was to do with seabed mining and how that could potentially impact this ancient tradition of shark calling in New Ireland. So There's a bit of controversy around the exploration for seabed mining that's happening not far from the west coast of New Ireland. And one of the concerns from the local people is that they will, well, I guess one of the stories, what they've shared is that the vibrations from the exploration have affected their ability to be able to catch as many sharks as they normally would. None of it's proven. It's just their own observations, but there are enough observations that make sense that they are being impacted. And while I was there, I learned that there are a lot of things impacting their traditional lifestyle. There's lots of logging that happens in and around that region, and there's a lot of dirty runoff water from the mountains that come down to the coastal communities, which affects all their drinking water and the water that they clean their tools in. The dirty water also comes into the ocean, so all the beautiful reef fish that are normally there aren't there. And so the local people are having to fish further and further away from shore where it's more dangerous, and they're finding it a lot harder to find their source of protein. These villages are very basic. They live very basic lives. They live off the land. They live off the sea. It is their primary source of protein. They don't just go to the shop, and they don't have a job and a regular income. They really rely on their land and their sea for survival. So it's really disheartening to hear the stories about the logging and the overfishing and the deep sea mining explorations that they believe are impacting their livelihoods, as well as this really beautiful ancient tradition of shark calling, which is something that is sacred. It's actually men's business, so I don't know as much as I could know, because I'm not allowed to. And actually, nobody who's not initiated can really know everything that there is to know, but it's quite a magical tradition that is passed down once you go through a certain initiation. There's all these rituals about what you can touch and not touch and not eat before you go on a catch, and all these taboos, and there's lots of chanting that happens. But basically, it's I was told that they sing about their the names of their ancestors, and they connect with the shark, and they call the shark in, and it's like they basically go out in these little canoes with some coconut shells for attracting the sharks. Their own chanting. They use no hooks or modern instruments or anything like that, and the sharks will come to them through this process. And it's kind of like the shark is offering itself to the shark caller, saying, "Okay, here's the exchange. I'm here. Take me." And they take the shark, and the shark uses for their protein, but they only take what they need. And it's a very sustainable way of living for them. And so that's a little bit about the shark calling. And it's it is a tradition that is probably not only sort of being impacted by the logging and the mining industries that I mentioned, but probably also just by modern life and modern society, and as the modern world sort of comes closer and closer to our sort of traditional lifestyle. Sometimes they're not passed down, or young men, youth don't take as much sort of interest in it. So there are a lot of other factors that are impacting the passing down of this ancient knowledge, but it does currently still exist. And I know that the people that I spoke to hope to see it continue to exist for forever. And it's an important part of their. It's not just the people that go out that it's important to. It's important to the entire community, because it feeds the entire community. When the canoe comes over the horizon, they blow a conch shell, and the women and other men and children gather on the beach, and they start to sing to welcome the canoes back in. So it is a community event. It's a celebration, and I was told that often people on the shore cry when the canoes arrive, because it's out of appreciation, out of a connection. It's a way of reconnecting to their ancestors as well. So, you know, it's deeply rooted in culture and tradition, and yeah, I mean, it's beautiful, and
it sounds beautiful.
I really do hope that it's something that continues. Yeah,
it sounds beautiful.
Naki and I were in American Samoa in 2019, and there's in one of the villages there's a legend of the turtle and the shark, and you know, people from the village will go to the cliffs and sing, and a turtle and a shark can show up when they're singing, but we don't get in the water, and we're not trying to capture the shark. We're standing safely on land. Just reading that, but then the tie that I think that, you know, in Pacifica culture is that the legend of the turtle and the shark it's their ancestors. The shark carries the history of an ancestor, and to see that, you know, all the way far away from American Samoa, and it's still, you know, the connection with the environment, the connection with Mother Nature, connection with the animals that you have, you know, in your environment, was touching to see that it was, you know, a shark, ancestors singing, and being in the ocean, but we're more on the cliffs. We're not in the water trying to catch the sharks.
Yeah. I thought that was beautiful. I would love to see that someday, but I guess I can't because I'm a woman. And I doubt I get initiated into anything. I doubt it. But real quick, I wanted to ask you about the tsunami and the, you know, everything that's going on in Tonga. Do you have family members there, or do you have you? Are they asking you to write an article, maybe, or do you know anything that's going on there?
Yeah, look, I'm not doing any stories on Tonga. I guess I'm disconnected in that sense because I'm not over there.
Mm-hmm.
But also, yeah, I do have family in Tonga. I haven't heard from anyone yet. I've been trying to touch base with my dad and other relatives in Australia to see if they've had any communications. But like so many at the moment, unless you've been lucky enough to have someone who's had a satellite phone or connected to a workplace with, you know, satellite phones or good communications, most people are still waiting to hear. I mean, it can be difficult for communications on a normal day sometimes with your family who are living in remote places.
Right.
So at this stage I'm not sure. I haven't had any communications. I'm following the news reports closely and touching base with people. I think it's unfortunately it's a little bit of a waiting game at the moment. I'm connected to a few members of the Tongan community here in Papua New Guinea, and we're hoping to do our own little fundraising drive, and actually they're all sort of connected to the music industry here, so we're going to use our creative skills in that area to hopefully put together some sort of relief concert.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Do something from Papua New Guinea for our brothers and sisters and family over in Tonga. So yeah, it's you're just kind of sitting in limbo a little bit here, but you know, the best thing that we can do is come together and do what we can from where we are, and hope for the best.
Awesome. What we just want to thank you so much for your time. We're going to let you get back to your day, but thank you so much. We appreciate you, you know, taking your time during the day to talk to us. We're just super proud. Thank you for being a positive Pacific Islander, and that our kids get to, you know, get inspired by your stories, by your movies, by everything that you're doing. And we're just so grateful and honored to have you on. So is there any shout outs or anyone you want to shout out, any role models that you might have had, or real quick, but really or actually if you have a project coming up, we can look for.
Definitely. What's in the works for you? And then before we go, because Naki's the one that wraps things up, I just want to say that when that film festival happens, Pacifica by Design is going to be there as long as the planes fly there.
Right,
we're going to be there, and we're going to chase you around with a microphone to interview you again.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Love to have you guys, and thank you so much for having me on your show and reaching out. I, as I said, I love to share my story, and I hope that it does resonate with some of your listeners. And what's on the cards for me at the moment. Well, I'm just sort of after the Christmas break getting back into gearing up for my next round of travels. I have a trip to the Southern Highlands in here in PNG, where I haven't been before. So Highlands area, I have a big project up there, and then I'll be going back over to New Ireland. I do a lot of work over in New Ireland, actually, so back over there, and then probably some work in the Gulf province. So I have quite a few different traveling projects happening here at the moment, which is, I guess it's one of the biggest benefits of sort of doing the work that I do is that one of my great loves is traveling, and also, meeting new people and learning about new places. And so through the medium of storytelling, I'm sent for my work to go and travel somewhere, meet people, learn about a place, and take photos and videos of people. And so, I couldn't have asked for a better, blessing to sort of be working and doing the things that I really love to do. And so, I really encourage, my shout out is really just to anyone out there who whatever area that they're pursuing, is just to keep putting one foot forward. And, quite often in my life, I've had big dreams that seem almost impossible. Like, I don't have the funds for that, or how am I going to do this? It doesn't matter. You don't have to have the answers. You just have to take a big step forward and believe in pursuing whatever it is that you're doing. And you'll find that doors will just magically open, and you will always achieve what you want to achieve, or you will sort of, you'll start that journey to get to where you want to go if you just create the energy that you want to get there. So, believe in yourself and always move forward and explore everything that you can, because it's all possible. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Awesome. I love that. That was Fainu. The interview was amazing. And thank you so much for tuning in this morning. You got anything before we go?
No, I'm not going to take any shot at the Niners. I hope you all do well next week.
Oh, stop. Don't get beat up. Thank you for tuning in this morning. Check us out every Sunday at 10 a.m. and catch us tomorrow with Koviki Talk at 5 p.m. with Carousel Mala'a and Kennedy Masoli, who will be talking about surviving COVID-19. Also catch us on Island City Media on Dash Radio every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Download the Dash Radio app, search Island City, and you'll see everything about us there. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next Sunday. Come back to Faika with us.
Love y'all.